The DJ accepts no responsibility for the next record.
Say what? Oh no, he's there. Where's the money, man? Where's my money?
It's time to man up, America.
Let's do this.
All right. We are live. Man Up America, Talk 101.3 The Buzz, WTNB Television, 27.1 Charter Channel 5, Comcast 210. I am flanked by two beautiful women today, one of which is the mother of my children. It's going to be a good show today. Everybody say hey to Rachel Lowe. This is my better half. You can talk. It's a radio show. You can talk in the microphone. She's grinning. She's posing for the cameras.
I don't want to steal the show, talk over you or anything. So
you still, baby, you've stole the show for 15 years of this marriage. Newsflash. We've got Mitch back in the studio today. She's going to read the news.
yes.
And today is a special week because it's Thanksgiving week, my favorite holiday. My wife can attest to that. We talked last week about the injustice of all you excess Christmas people stepping all over Thanksgiving. And so we're going to demand that you recognize the holiday that's coming up. And for all of you Black Friday people, Godspeed. We wish you the best. Perfect health, safety. Normally being a pro-Second Amendment guy, Mitch, I recommend that people carry their firearms for safety.
Yes.
Black Friday is probably the one day of the year I'm going to say leave your firearm at home because
No good will come of it.
the trigger-happy people are probably out and about that day. I won't be out and about, will I, Rachel?
No. And
What about Small Business Saturday?
Pull that mic closer to you there.
Are you a
Mitch.
Small Business Saturday shopper?
No, we're kind of a cyber people
Cyber
now.
Monday.
Okay.
Cyber Monday. So, y'all pull these mics in a little bit closer so we can hear you. Just a
And
tad.
listen, just to add in a little bit about my husband's very strict nature about the differences in the holidays, and Thanksgiving comes first. So I put up one strand of Christmas lights.
Don't do it.
So I could take a picture of my children for an annual calendar that we do, and I needed a picture for December. So
Right.
Christmas clothes came out, one strand of white holiday lights.
Nope.
Just for the picture.
Jumping the gun.
I did not take those lights down. And I got scolded.
Jumping
As soon
the
as
gun.
he got home and saw those, he's like, "What are the lights doing mixed in with the fall leaves?"
Fall leaves. They're beautiful. It's beautiful.
They were with fall leaves.
Right.
I'm
What was the big deal?
outmanned. Shrink, Rob Alderman, Faricelli, Slinky, somebody get in the studio. I'm bookended by two
But you didn't
very
put up the
opinionated
Christmas
women.
tree for the picture.
I
though.
did not.
This is
I
Man Up
wanted
America.
to.
She tried.
Y'all are
to
womaning
Yeah, I didn't take the
up
lights down,
on me
though.
right now. Stop
well,
womaning up on Man Up America.
Hey, she
You're-
was doing it for the good of a calendar.
Listen, I said
it's-
something because I thought, why? Ultimately, why? And she gave me the why, and I accepted the why. And did the strand come down? Is the strand still up?
It is still up.
The strand is still up.
Yes, it is.
There.
But after Friday, it's okay for the strand to be up.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait,
Come
wait,
Friday.
wait. Recollection right here. I believe you did ask if we could go ahead and purchase a tree before Thanksgiving so that when we got back home the weekend after Thanksgiving, we could go ahead and immediately decorate because you do not
Yeah,
have time.
what did I say had to wait until after Thanksgiving?
The
Decoration.
assembly.
The decoration.
Okay.
But the Christmas tree
The
could come
actual
into the house.
acquisition of the tree logistically made sense before we headed out of town for Thanksgiving.
So when time is a factor, when you don't have time to get the Christmas tree after Thanksgiving,
Oh,
it's
but
okay for it to come
contraire,
into the house
beautiful lady.
before.
Oh, but contraire. Here's the problem. It's
Here's
not
what.
the lack of time that's generating all the Christmas in October craze. It is I have way too much time on your hands if you're
Lack
thinking
of
about Christmas in
respect for the
October.
pilgrims is what it is.
It's all about the pilgrims
It's-
with you.
yes,
Our
it's
resident
pilgrims.
racist here, Mitch, in the.
Hey,
the pilgrims-
the Native Americans were
Thank you for
important
including
also.
all parties in Thanksgiving
Yes.
in your statement.
Yes.
We're an
yes.
all-inclusive show here at Man Up America. So listen, I brought my wife in. Today she won't be my wife.
Okay.
Today she's going to be professional school counselor
Right.
Rachel Lowe, because one of our headlines, which is there's absolutely nothing funny about, and it's one that honestly I really don't want to even to discuss. She's going to provide some very important professional insight on as a school counselor, and that is obviously what we saw this week with the tragic bus accident in
Yes,
Chattanooga.
on Monday.
I don't want to talk about it not because I want to pretend it didn't happen. I don't want to talk about it because as a father of small children,
It's difficult.
Yeah,
is.
it's you really internalize the risk that your children are in on a daily basis, regardless of whether they're driving a bus or walking the street or
Even at school, just at
yeah.
school.
I mean,
period.
we could have a tragic report on a trampoline accident, and it would probably hit us too because of having children. But it did happen. It's we're still waiting on a lot of information, which will come in, I guess, over the next few weeks. For what it appears, the emergency responders did a phenomenal job
Yes.
contending with the situation they're in, and now we're left with the aftermath. This thing called life, the life thereafter, not only for the families but for the students that did survive that tragic accident. And my wife, Rachel, you've been no stranger to having to deal with those scenarios in school. So we'll start with that article. Mitch, read what our most recent report. Folks may not know. A lot of folks, I would say, if you're on the social medias, you have seen at least a call for prayer
Right.
related to this accident. You may not know the latest update, but the bus driver has been charged
Has
with
been
vehicular
charged
homicide.
with 5 counts of vehicular homicide so far, but we have had
A sixth
a
child.
6th child pass away, so I would assume that would go up. We've also been charged with reckless endangerment to the children. So yes, on Monday at 3:30, there was a bus with 37 children from Woodmore Elementary that crashed. First responders got there. It took them a long time to get kids out of the bus. There were 5 children that passed away in the bus and 1 since then, and we're still talking about 6 that are in intensive care. So again, the bus driver has been charged, and now we have the NTSB on the scene that says they'll be here for around 10 days investigating. We know speed was a factor, but we don't know what else was a factor.
Well, and I don't want to. Today on this program, for those of us watching on TV and for those listening on the radio, we're not going to dwell on the accident itself. We can't change what happened. We're not going to publicly crucify someone until they have their due in
Sure.
court. So we're not going to comment too much on the gentleman, the bus driver that has been charged. I do want us to talk about what we do next
Right.
as a community, because Chattanooga is our neighbor, and we're so close. The likelihood, I'm waiting. For me, Chattanooga's kind of fringe in the sense that I have relationships down there, but they haven't quite released the children that did pass, and I'm waiting for it to come back into that 6 degrees of separation, where
Right.
in some capacity I
You know them.
someone who knew someone who's dealing with this tragedy. But Rachel, you are the guidance counselor, school counselor. I know you're changing the moniker, but
I'm
I love
not
the
so
term.
picky.
I love the term guidance counselor, and they're cracking down on that. But I think you do provide guidance, and we're asking for guidance counseling today. We
There
want to be
were-
guided
There were
through.
3 4th graders and 1 first grader, which is the age of my children. So if these were my children that were at this school, how would I have this conversation with
And one
them?
kindergartner. We've got a
Right.
kindergartner and a fourth grader.
So how do you
and-
broach that subject of
So-
these for your friends?
So in seeking guidance, right? We're seeking guidance. What do we do? Of course, we've done the obligatory Facebook post saying I'm praying for you. Okay, great. Number one, make sure you please follow that with some call to a higher power, because
Right.
in moments like these, we can't make sense. We can't wrap our brain around it, the injustice of it all, why it would happen. But before we get into the counseling aspect of it, I want folks to understand, here's what's going to happen now. Federal investigators are already in Chattanooga.
Right.
There's going to be a detailed review of what led to this. Was it negligence? We know it. So far, they've ruled out that it was nothing weather related.
Nothing weather related.
So
just
the
speed.
question becomes, why do we investigate this? And it is to see if there was some preventative measure that could have avoided this.
What
Now,
could we have
I've
done
already
different?
seen the statements. As we lose one of our studio lights, I've already seen the statements.
Set the mood.
Yeah, I know. Set the the ambiance. I've already seen the statements by people saying the bus driver was 24 years old. You can't even rent a car
Right.
from Enterprise
Right.
at 24 years
Right.
old. Now, where's the line, right? Here in the U.S., we're still a country where at 18, you're mostly an adult.
You're old enough to die.
You're
for the country.
old enough to die
can
for your
vote.
country. Oh, but you can't drink the alcohols.
Can't drink the alcohol.
You can't drink the alcohols. But you're old enough to die for your country.
Right.
Okay? On the other hand, there is some sense that an 18-year-old's not truly an adult yet, socially.
Sure.
And if anything, we're starting to say more and more as a society that you're really not an adult until you're older.
That's what, and we develop lifelong. So there's still a lot of developing that happens between the age of 18 and 24 where this bus driver was, you know. And it's hard to say legally, when does that development happen? For some, it does happen early. I mean, we got married super early, and some people said we were crazy. But I
Some
felt...
people still say we were crazy.
I know, right?
They said you have 4 children. You obviously did
Crazy
not know what you were getting
awesome.
into.
Yeah.
But I would argue that we were developmentally ready for that step at that age, whereas others are not.
Yeah,
So,
we were very
legally-
responsible at a younger age. But
Yeah, legally you'll never know whether
well, here's the
someone
thing.
is capable of being responsible with.
I think at age 18, there's a sense that you're now culpable for your decisions. But I don't think it's any stretch to say that as a society, we've always kind of monitored to the degrees to which we are comfortable
right.
with people. For instance, you have to be 35 years old to be president of the United States.
For a very good reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That we have
Live
these.
some.
Yeah, we want some experience behind you. You know, driving a bus is a pretty important thing, but let's be real with the protocols behind this. They're gonna look at an investigation. Could they come up that age was a factor in this? That's hard to ascertain.
can't, yeah.
No, you can't say that. There are 22-year-olds. This 24-year-old driver has more bus driving experience than I have.
Right.
In my late 30s. Okay.
Right.
So that's probably not going to bubble up. But the big question is going to be, is the policy related to how we recruit and pay people resigned us to folks with less experience? Because I know even in our county, it's hard to get bus drivers.
drivers,
You drive
absolutely.
down Keith Street here in Cleveland, and out in front of Stewart School, at least twice a year will be a bus parked with a big sign on it saying, hiring bus drivers will train.
It is a very difficult job, and some people are not up to it. I wouldn't drive a
Yep.
bus to save my life.
Yep.
I mean, maybe to save my life.
I mean,
but
you think about what
it's a
it's like
stretch.
with just your children.
Just my 4 in the car.
and thinking about what mass chaos in a bus
Is going
with
on.
40 plus children that's very overwhelming for even a parent, but one that's not a parent, one that's younger, one that
a large
cannot
responsibility.
multitask well. It's an overwhelming job, and so
It is.
when
Now,
you
bef-
see it out in front that we'll train you, but we're not going to give you any coping skills to deal with what's going behind you. It's,
Well, I'm sure that's part of some of the training, but for the most part, they're pretty much saying we'll help you get a CDL license so you can
Right.
drive this vehicle. But without plate glassing all bus drivers, because there's obviously some very good ones out there, but the ones I know probably have more opinions about this than anything else. They'll be quick to tell you
Absolutely.
who shouldn't be driving a bus.
Right.
So they're
Yes.
obviously just like teachers. There's good teachers, there's bad teachers, and the good teachers know exactly who the bad ones are. So maybe on the other side of this investigation is a process of peer review that helps us recognize, helps the peer community who understands what it takes to operate that vehicle.
Yeah.
I hope, let me say I hope,
yes.
that that's a part of this initial review.
And you never want a tragedy to strike and that preempt you finally having a discussion about do things need to change, especially with our bus drivers? And I know it's difficult for the school systems because the buses have to run. You can't not provide that service at a public school. So, like in our county, I work out in Polk County High School, out in Polk County, and I know that we've had a bus driver shortage for some time now. So I know there are times our principal at our school is called to run a route like several times a week, because there is such a shortage, and we've had this shortage for several years. So I've got several teachers that leave at 2 p.m. I could name 4 probably right now, plus my principal that on occasion is called in to cover a route. I mean, because you just can't find those that are willing to do that task because it is such a large responsibility. So I don't know how far we'll get in the investigation of, was this bus driver, capable, like, should he have been behind the wheel? That's hard to even determine. If he had gotten the proper licensing and he was of age.
He was licensed,
you can't
he was
really,
of age. That was the standard.
But I think after a tragedy like this, I think you absolutely have to look back on, what do we require of these people? How do we pay them? What kind of training are they given as far as how to handle situations on the bus while you're driving at the same time? I would be interested to hear what is their training on how to handle certain situations on a bus.
Well, what we know is that everyone's an expert on Facebook.
Everyone is so
And
smart.
Absolutely. I
It's
know so
already
many
started, and
experts.
it's going to ensue that everybody's got exactly this figured out and exactly who's responsible for this tragedy and exactly what the problem is.
And the unfortunate thing is the bus driver's picture was released this morning.
Right.
So I've already seen his picture, and you already get this, like, guilty,
Yes.
almost. So before trial ever comes,
from my
do
understanding,
justice. Like, we're already crucifying.
from personal sources to me, this is not media sources, but personal sources to me tell me that there are already attorneys with the NAACP making their way to Chattanooga because racial comments have
Right.
already ensued.
Right.
The young gentleman that they have arrested and charged is a black male with dreadlocks and has an appearance that has elicited a response
Sure.
from a certain factor of the public who are immediately going to judge you based on look.
Yes.
And whether that's right or wrong, it's so. So there's some sense that you cannot use that profile of how someone looks as a means to
Right.
Yeah,
indict them.
you
Right.
shouldn't, but it happens.
But it happens,
It is
and I've seen it
happening.
And it's
already
unfortunate.
where people are uncomfortable. But I really think here most people, regardless of the picture that popped up on that television network, would have felt if there was negligence here, it needed to be sought out. And I think that's going to happen. So, but that's what's going to happen with protocol in the next few days. My call to the viewers and listeners of this show is hold your judgment on social media, because we know that bad information circulates, and it
Yes.
circulates quickly.
Very quickly.
And there are families who are dealing with this tragedy. There are friends of families dealing with this tragedy. And we as a community in Southeast Tennessee are asking ourselves a lot of very serious questions that need substantive debate that can lead to actions that build safety.
Right. Right.
Insertion of speculation, your inherent biases, incorrect information
Have no room.
only gets in the way of putting another
Right.
child at danger.
Be constructive.
Stop. Man up. Stop for a moment. Your initial Facebook post about praying for the families is probably where you should end.
Do it.
Probably where you should end.
And then actually follow
with it.
through.
Follow through
Yeah,
with it
with
and
your
then
Facebook
stop.
post.
Now, in all hypocrisy, this program's not going to stop. We're actually going to turn to something that I think our listeners and viewers will value, which is Rachel's experience with, in crisis in a school, how the school responds to crisis like this, and what are some of the steps and protocols in place. And Rachel, I'm going to ask you very clearly about where do you feel as a counselor your limitations are in a situation like this. Now, in Polk County last year, you dealt with some tragedy related to student suicide, which was very different than what we've experienced here. It was with older children, but tragedy nonetheless, tragedy that impacted both your student body impacted your families, your community, and the educators that you work with in the school. Tell me a little bit about what you suspect Chattanooga's doing right now in response to this tragedy at the school level.
Yeah. And I work in a high school, so I know that these kids, this school that's suffering right now is at elementary level, so you have to treat it very differently than we would approach a crisis situation at a high school. But what I hope has happened at that school is that there was a crisis plan put in place before yesterday. Heaven
Which doesn't
forbid-
always happen.
It doesn't always happen. Some school systems have it outlined with a crisis plan. In the event that this tragedy happens, this is the steps that we take to ensure the safety of our students. And in the case that this happens, this is how you handle it. And it keeps everybody on the same page. All of the teachers, all of the administrators, it keeps everybody on the same page with what needs to happen. When that's not set in place is when you get people causing more harm than good in a situation. And it's not that they had malice intent. It was that they were unaware of how things kind of needed to go. So really the day after a tragedy like this, what you're going to see is, number one, I suspect that because of the Thanksgiving holidays, and today was the last day before school was out for a holiday, I'm going to bet attendance was down at the school today. A lot of parents and family members kept their children home today to comfort them, and that was probably the best thing for some of those kids that were super upset, that knew some of the students that rode the bus. Maybe some of those families are still unaware of who was on that bus, who is safe and who is not. So maybe some of their children are worried, I know my friend was on that bus and I don't know if they're okay or not. So with these students and they're hurt right now, they just need to feel safe. So sometimes the best place for them is at home during a tragedy like this.
So step one is instilling a sense of safety going forward.
Absolutely.
Which was obviously part of the investigation. You mentioned the holiday coming up. Does the break help or does it hurt?
It absolutely helps. I think right now, because safety is the number one thing that these kids need to feel, not just be told, hey, you're safe, it's fine, you weren't on that bus, you're okay. They need to feel that safety, so they need to be surrounded by people that they feel can keep them safe. And sometimes when a tragedy like this strikes, going back to school, some kids are concerned that they aren't safe anymore. And so sending them to school today, if they ride on a bus there, and they ride home on a bus, some kids wouldn't have felt safe. And maybe the best response for their parents was to keep them home. Now, for any parents that sent your child to school today, that is okay too. So you really have to.
There are people at the school prepared.
Yes, to handle it.
To handle this.
So that's the next thing
and
you
address.
address.
Some parents, it takes a pretty special parent to say, I don't know what to do with my child in a moment like this. And I'm going to partner with my school system, with my school counselor, and hand over my child emotionally to people I feel that are better suited and equipped to handle this. But you mentioned something interesting about the plan, that there should be a crisis plan in place. And I think the danger of there not being a plan is there's a struggle for power. Who's responsible for what?
Yes.
So you waste a lot of time trying to figure out, well, who's going to say what, who's going to deal with this, who's going to deal with that.
And a lot of people, when they're uncertain, they don't make the best decisions.
Right.
When it hasn't been pre-thought out, you don't make the best decisions all the time. So it's always best to have these things kind of outlined and have it almost like a automatic response when tragedy does like this, strikes like this, because in tragedy, the teachers are suffering right now at that school. So how well are they going to be able to handle the kids in their classroom today as far as emotional response to those kids? And you're all hurting together. They're not coming at 100% today with those kids. But when you know that there's a plan in place and you know who's taking care of what, it's easier to come in and just handle the basic emotional response that you need to as a teacher, not having to worry about everything else. So a lot of times in a crisis plan with a school, what usually typically happens is the first step is to make sure all of those that need to know do know. Heaven forbid a teacher shows up today and didn't know of the tragedy yesterday and doesn't have the information, and then all of the things start happening today and they hear this and they hear that and they don't know exactly what's going on and where the truth is in all of that, and they can't almost like respond because they don't know. So the first step is always making sure your faculty know and they know what they can and can't say. So in a situation you don't want to bring more harm, when you speak things that maybe you've heard that are untrue, or you speak things that do not need to be spoken yet. So out of respect for the family, there are certain things that you don't need to say in situations like this. You've got to give those things time before that information is released out of a sensitivity. So faculty need to know, where do we stand, what information can we share, and how does my administrator expect me to respond in a time like this, to the kids in my classroom or the kids that are within our school building.
Well, and probably to avoid meaningless comforts. One of the most common that people, it's almost like an autonomic reflex.
Like those
is
cliche.
to say everything's going to be okay. Well, to a child, everything's
You can't
not.
guarantee that.
Everything's
Right.
not okay. To say that everything's going to be okay is not necessarily true. Now, people say that meaning something else. So I guess from a counseling perspective, don't you provide just as much counseling and guidance to those doing the counseling and guidance as you do those who need it?
Well, there's a difference, too, in I can't just run in after a tragedy like this and speak to the faculty and say, this is how you need to counsel your students today. I can't give you a quick course in 20 minutes on how to handle everything that you might see in your classroom that day with those kids. So what we typically do with our crisis plan, there is a step in there to where if we're able to locate community resources, we pull them into the school to handle difficult situations. So in our school system, what we've done is we do give teachers information on what they might see in the classroom or information that they can and can't share. But then we also tell teachers, listen, if there's a student that needs to talk to somebody, we have extra counselors, here at the school today. Don't try to,
Right.
handle it on your own and do a counseling session there in your class with one student while your other 15 students, 20 students are kind of sitting there watching. Like, let's remove that kid from the classroom and give them the proper care and attention that they need. So we pull in a bunch of community resources. And that's what a lot of I'm sure that the school has done today, has pulled in extra counselors around the community that can come in and give specific students that are really hurting over this issue one-on-one attention to kind of cope and build that safety that they need to feel at this moment.
On the program with us today is Rachel Lowe. She's the guidance counselor at Polk County High School. She's also my my baby mama.
Lifelong partner.
Lifelong partner.
In crime.
And I think it's comforting to have you as a resource at home. Just even hearing you talk now, I'm just like, I'm so glad I've got this at the house.
I have this to help
But
parents.
not everybody has that. And
listen, like as counselors, we feel. I know I was trained to be a school counselor, and I went through years of classes on how to do this. But still, when tragedy strikes like this, and we have experienced a tragedy already this year at my high school where I work, you feel so inadequate as a person to know what to say and sometimes how to even communicate to the student, like, you're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. Maybe not today, but it will be. And, like, I'm here for you. There's no right or wrong. Like, this is a formula for success. There is no formula for success. So it's educating a lot of the students, and it's hard at the elementary level, which I know the kids that are dealing with this tragedy today is elementary level, and it's hard to go in and really educate them on
you can't have
grief,
these deeply
counseling.
profound life
No, you can't.
discussions
Kindergartner.
with elementary
You can't.
school kids.
No.
All they know is my friend's no longer here.
Right.
And for a lot of them, and I watched it happen.
Right.
That's
a
really
lot
the
of
thing
them-
that's not in those articles right now is this.
Yeah.
I witnessed.
Sure.
It's not just that somebody's gone, somebody passed away. It's that there
They
are
were
now children
experiencing-
who've seen things we've never seen but fake on a movie.
Right. We'll never be able to unsee them. And there are the ones that were not there that we're not releasing any names yet. So I don't know if my
So
friend is okay.
Yeah, so when they
I
show up
don't-
at school,
I don't know.
Is my friend just staying home because they're sad today?
Are they
Or
still
were
in
they
the
on the
hospital,
bus
or are we
Or-
talking about something else here? So
Yeah.
there's a lot.
A lot of uncertainty.
And that's
in those
hard to
kids.
handle for
As a
baby,
kid,
for
and
a
to
6-year-old
rationalize it
to-
in your head, like, because they don't automatically think, oh, my friend's home because they're sad today. They're automatically going to think, I bet my friend was on that bus. What if my friend, and that's automatically where their mind is going to go. So today is going to be a difficult day, and I do hope that for those kids that were on that bus, I hope there is extended counseling provided over the next months, maybe years for this. So I tell kids all the time, listen, there's no formula to make sure you get through this. I know that you will get through this, but everyone handles it a little differently. So I always encourage kids, like when you see a friend that is upset and crying, let them be upset and cry. Just hug them and tell them you're here for them, but let them cry. Don't make fun of them because they're upset. And even if they're upset a month from now over what has happened, allow them to be upset as long as it takes. But you know what? There are some kids that don't respond that way. Some kids are quiet. Some kids get agitated and defensive when things like this happen. So you don't see them crying. You don't see them, visibly upset. You see them as either angry, or some kids like try to act like it's not happening, like totally
block it out.
Yeah, block it out, and they'll be cutting jokes, acting like everything's okay, nothing's gone wrong, and people get upset at people responding that way and not knowing that that is their way of handling the grief. So I talk about in times like this,
especially with elementary school children,
Yes.
they're still going to be kids, and
They are.
I remember we had a tragedy in Rachel's family last year, and I remember we drove down to be with the family and lost someone at a very young age in a very tragic incident, and she had small children, and the small kids are still outside playing and climbing trees and still doing those things, and you kind of look and say, you want them to understand what's happening.
Right.
You want them to understand what did happen. You want them to understand what's happening going forward, but you
They don't
have
get
to
it
let them to
sometimes.
escape
Right.
into the innocence that is their youth.
And often it hits later. It doesn't hit that day. It hits several weeks later when they're like, I haven't seen this person in a while, and it starts to sink in that you're not going to see this person. It takes them a while to really understand. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
It was a really tough thing for our family. And I feel for these kids. I think that's why I'm in the profession of counseling. I feel so deeply for these kids that go through these things that we could never understand. I'll never understand what it would be like to be on that bus and to witness that, or to be the kid of a mom who has passed away at a very young age. Like, I'll never understand that, but I want to be there to offer some assistance to show that love to those kids, whether it's today that they realize something very tragic and hurtful has happened, or if it's, I tell kids, if it's 6 months from now to where you thought you had handled
Right.
it okay up until
Right.
now, but 6 months from now you realize you're still hurting, and you have to come to me and say, listen, I'm not over this, and my friends don't understand why I'm still hurting and why I can't get past this. Like, it's a wall and I can't climb it. I can't get over it. I think about it every day, and it's affecting everything that I do. At that point, it's time to deal with it with that
Right.
kid. When other kids had already dealt with it months ago, maybe closer to when the incident happened, now it's time for that kid to deal with it. And just to understand that every kid is different. So today with those kids at that elementary school, there's no perfect formula. And those kids may not grieve today. They may grieve in a couple of weeks. They may grieve in a couple of months. It's going to take everyone, a little different path to get through this process and get to where you feel like you have healed and you can accept what has happened. So really the services that are being provided today, hopefully in that crisis plan for the school, that they've got extra support there on campus today for those kids, but understand that they may need extra support in a couple of
Ongoing,
weeks,
sure.
ongoing, for a couple of months, for those kids. Absolutely. It's going to take that school a while to recover from something so tragic as what's happened.
Well, let's hope they get it. We're going to go to a break to break the emotional tension in this room.
I love emotion. I'm a counselor.
My wife has started crying, which automatically
come
makes
on.
me cry. And, but our thoughts.
This isn't really a Man Up America show, is it? When you're
Well,
crying, Adam.
Okay
Listen, no,
to
we're manning
man
up.
and
We're
have
manning
those
up.
Emotions. It's
We're manning up with the fact that sometimes life sucks, and we don't have the answers, but we find solace with one another. So we'll be back in a moment. Call 339-8086, Home Mortgage Solutions, LLC, right here in Cleveland. Their team's prepared to help you with lending, with refi options. Just give them a call, 339-8086, and tell them the good Dr. J. Adams sent you.
Woodman Life has been keeping its promises to members for more than 100 years. That means we've survived the Great Depression, Black Friday, and all the other ups and downs our economy has faced. In good times and bad, we're strong and stable. We're an organization your family can count on. At Woodman Life, we've always believed that slow and steady really does win the race. Our conservative investment philosophies are just one part of the strength of our organization. What really makes Woodman Life strong is the trust and loyalty of our members.
Contact your local Woodman representative today by calling 423-790-2847. With 3 offices serving Southeast Tennessee, your Woodman representative standing by to help you.
Woodman of the World Life Insurance Society of Omaha, Nebraska. Woodman Life, standing strong for generations.
The good Dr. J. Adam here, talking to all the gentlemen out there. For those of you with wives, girlfriends, even mothers, which would make all of you, you need to call 423-472-8887 and talk to the good folks at Bliss Day Spa. Nothing says I love you like the special treatment, the VIP treatment of the services of Bliss Day Spa. Call them today, 423-472-8887. Tell them the good doctor sent you from Man Up America.
So, how's the new job?
Love it. But it's not just a job, it's a career.
Life insurance? Love?
I told you Woodman Life is really active in the community, right? They support all kinds of community improvement projects. How's your job, by the way?
Don't ask.
Begin your financial career today with Woodman Life by calling 423-790-2847.
Woodman of the World Life Insurance Society of Omaha, Nebraska. Woodman Life, standing strong for generations.
After much discussion, I have convinced my wife not to leave the studio for the purpose of...
Well, let's man up. This is Man Up America, right? He offered me lunch.
I offered her lunch to stick around. So
Feed me and tell me I'm pretty.
yeah, that's right.
And I'll stay. I'll stay.
She's going to hang out with us to talk about the less emotional things. Well, I don't know. They might be emotional for the listeners.
Could be.
We can't dodge presidential politics right now, so it's a part of it.
This political stuff elicits emotions that some of us probably need to keep a little more better control over.
The crazy
Yeah,
train.
remember that advice I
The
gave
crazy
you
train.
on just stop? Yeah, on Facebook,
Facebook.
just stop. Let's carry that over. Okay, our next 3 are actually all presidential politics
Feel-good
related
presidential stories.
So the big controversy since our last program was this whole Hamilton cat. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar and you have seen the headlines, for those of you who are not of the thespian nature,
Yes.
I am. I'm a musical guy. I love drama. I did theater. I'm a patron of theater. We host theater down at the venue Creekside.
Actually, on our first date. Do
We
you
went to
remember
the
this?
Shakespeare Tavern.
No. Okay.
That's our second date.
Unofficial
I was gonna say,
first.
you're
No, our
wrong.
real first date. That was our unofficial
That was
one.
the Royal Tenenbaums, which might as well have been a bad play.
And that was not the highlight of the evening right there. Towards the end of the evening, at some point, without me prompting it, he jumps in the back of his pickup truck and starts belting this show tune of some sort of, I'm not a theater buff. I didn't know what he was
Show
singing.
tunes.
Can
But
we
he
edit
was
this,
like-
Mr. Producer? Can we edit this part out?
That
before-
was
oh, we're
so-
live. We're live. Okay.
And you stayed though. So,
I
mean,
stayed.
obviously
We're live.
She liked the tune from Cats.
I know.
It
and
wasn't
you were-
from Cats.
See, he remembers.
It was Luck Be a Lady, which
Oh.
I wasn't actually doing the show tune version by Marlon Brando. I was doing Frank Sinatra's version. It was a
Okay.
Frank Sinatra moment, which is very masculine for this show.
And I
Thank
had a
you.
hard time figuring out, was he trying to woo me or was he trying to run me off?
Scare you.
Right. I
Oh, the
wasn't
woo
sure.
was on. Listen, the swagger in that song, "Luck Be a Lady." I'd play it,
It
but we'd get
fits.
flagged by the BBC again. Can't
fits.
play the song.
Can't.
No, I did. I did sing "You Luck Be a Lady" that night, didn't I?
You did.
In my full theater-esque voice, I suppose.
So you're a fan of the theater then?
I am
You
a
would
fan
go
of the
see
theater,
Hamilton.
but I would love to see Hamilton in all of its historical inaccuracies. But which I saw a meme that said actors from Hamilton give Mike Pence policy advice. In
Exactly.
turn, Mike Pence has requested they not be so flat in the third song, correct historical inaccuracies, and less is more in Act 4.
Right.
So
Right. That's incredible. That's
Did,
incredible.
did he publicly announce that to them, or did he
No.
just write them a letter in his
Oh,
request?
yeah,
of,
he wrote him a letter and had someone read it in a friendly atmosphere at a Tea Party meeting or something.
Okay.
So
Right.
no, listen.
About
for
the
those-
same level of expertise on both sides.
Yeah.
there,
So
is
let
what
me
they're
provide
having.
some background. Hamilton is a play on Broadway. It's a Broadway show.
Very
I've heard
popular.
great reviews about it. I hope to see it someday. I've never been to Broadway. Don't tend to go to Broadway. I prefer community theater. I like to see folks I know do stupid stuff and get out of character.
Speaking
and so
of,
I love.
do we want to plug the venue Creekside real quick?
No,
And the-
well, the Blended Creekside's just
Theater
doing
that goes
Christmas parties right now, but I will plug this. If you don't know yet, ice skating at the Bradley Square Mall.
What?
$10
I
and
don't
you
have to
can go-
drive to Chattanooga
You do
now?
not have
No,
to drive to.
You can go ice skating at Bradley Square Mall. It's $10.
Opens December the 15th. Is that correct?
Is that when it's
I
open?
believe it
Okay,
is.
so yeah,
We're excited.
I'm very excited about that.
That's nice.
Yes.
So
That's nice.
And
yeah,
I think
no.
it will run well through January.
I wish I had pulled that off at the Venue Creekside. I was unable to.
Oh my gosh, why didn't we think of that?
We didn't. But hey, they beat us to it. Go to Bradley Square Mall when the ice rink opens. Take your kids ice skating.
Yep.
If you've never been ice skating, you've
It's
got to go
difficult.
one. It is, but it's,
It's
so
so
fun.
difficult.
It's so fun.
I didn't find it.
I want to know if they have
I
like
found
the
it fun.
walkers. to
That's
keep
what.
everyone
Okay, like
safe.
the skating ring.
It's
Right.
called the rail.
Yes.
It's called
It's
the
a-
outer wall. You hold
Oh,
the
is
outer
that what
wall
it
as you
is?
go around.
Well, that's like shaming me when I have to
I'm
hug
gonna
the
need-
outer wall because I.
But
can't
everyone's
skate.
hugging the outer wall,
gonna need to
except
find
for
out.
that one gal or
That's
that
like
one
spinning
that
circles?
one guy who's
Nancy
doing
Kerrigan
plies
in the middle.
Yeah, you know, Nancy Kerrigan's out there. If Tanya Harding shows up, you might want to run.
Oh.
But yeah, ice skating in Bradley Square Mall. So back to
That's awesome.
Hamilton, for providing the context. It's a Broadway play, and the actors of the play chose to deliver a very political statement
Yes.
because Governor Mike Pence.
The actors chose or who chose?
Well, the people behind the show, there was a lot of solidarity in the message.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's not point fingers.
Mm.
But Mitch, read the article that you have on what they said to the vice president as he was leaving the show, which he paid $3,000 to attend.
Yes, so this is a very expensive play. So Friday night, Mike Pence is there. The show closes, and everything I've seen says that Brandon Dixon did not write.
That's
what
the lead
he has.
actor who delivered
It
the
is-
message.
It is Aaron Burr. Yes, he did
Okay.
deliver the message, but it says that the show's producer actually wrote it, and there was big controversy. Are we going to say it? Are we not going to say it? And decided after their curtain closed that they were going to go ahead and address Mike Pence.
Does it have the statement? Can you
It
read
does.
read us the
It says,
statement?
we are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us, our planet, our children, our parents, or defend us and uphold our inalienable rights, sir. But we truly hope that this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and to work on behalf of all of us.
This is from the man who played the character who shoots Hamilton in the play.
Yes.
Okay, here's my
Yes.
take on this, and there was a lot of the debate on the social medias over the weekend. I have no problem with the statement at all. I think they have every right to say it. I don't even really have a problem with them doing it how they did. Nothing they said was truly out of line. They said, we feel
Right.
that this is a potential threat, and we hope that being here tonight and watching us do what we do encourages you to consider us in policy. Fair statement.
Fair
all
statement.
the way around. Here's my problem. You said it in a very friendly atmosphere. Okay?
That people have paid to go to.
That's right.
The women here are thinking
listen,
money the whole time.
I'm just saying.
But in any business, the business can do what it wants. Starbucks
Yes.
says it doesn't want Christians doing business there. Certain
Right.
bakeries don't want to
That's up
bake
for
gay
debate.
cakes. We got it. You can do whatever you want to in business. Terry Posey said you don't have to sell people guns on this program, right? Okay.
Okay.
So they have the opportunity
That
to make
is
this
something
decision.
that you know going into working with those
But
businesses.
here's the problem. This is really the problem. That statement, you cannot convince me for one moment that people behind the scenes wrote this statement thinking, all right, if we
is gonna
say
do
this, this will change them into doing good policy.
Right.
No, it was all
written.
for
It was written for the
social
jeer.
media.
It was written for the jeers of a friendly audience, which means even though the statement, in my opinion, is entirely appropriate, there's nothing wrong about it. It is not by any means brave.
No.
And to paint this as some brave display is just ludicrous. It is
Right.
akin to the pastor turning around, preaching to the choir about the one guy sitting in the congregation, or more accurately, the one guy who wandered in to pay alms to your congregation, and you're going to ream him to the choir.
Right.
To me, that's what it is. So nothing brave. These actors aren't brave. The producers aren't brave. And the big debate that's emerged out of this is whether or not, there's been an age-old debate on whether or not culture reflects art or art reflects culture. And all of my thespian friends over the weekend were really on the high horse of art has always been an aggressive space. It has been about political speech, and it seeks to steer culture. And I get that premise. I really, really do. But what I'm saying is, if you really want to impact public policy, do what Mike Pence did. Leave a career and run for office.
Right.
We expect all the business guys. We expect Donald Trump to take all of his money and put it in a blind trust so he can serve us in public policy. I want to see, and there's a few, but this is what I want to say to all the actor friends out there who are liberal. Sure, you got Al Franken who's serving for you, but Ronald Reagan was a conservative. Sonny Bono was a conservative. You don't have a monopoly on people from the arts who make their way into government and policy.
Right.
There are Dennis Miller, who one of my favorite comedians, and arguably all I ever wanted to be in life was Dennis Miller. I have this program because I want to be Dennis Miller, right? Dennis Miller is a champion, very libertarian, very conservative. So there is no ideological monopoly on what agenda artists push when it comes to public policy. But nothing brave about how they did the statement. If you want to prove something to me, make that statement as a cast to Congress at Capitol Hill in a non-friendly environment. That's when you're brave.
Well, basically, I think the huge criticism is they kind of had him hostage. They had this audience hostage, and they said what they needed to say, and then they ran away.
Like he was walking out, sir, I see you leaving.
Please
he
stay.
says.
Please stay. So everyone else, and then they leave. They're saying this was not a conversation. This wasn't an attempt to be a conversation. This was, I'm going to verbally vomit what I think.
Yeah, I'm going to monologue to you and give you no chance to rebut. Now, Pence did give a statement later on and was very gracious and pretty much said, listen, they're actors. They did a great job. I hear what they're saying, and I'm not concerned about it, which was, to me, the best response.
He didn't say not concerned.
No,
he said, I'm not hurt.
Well, he's not hurt, but he's saying, I'm not concerned about my intent to represent all of America.
Right.
I understand they're scared about that, but I know exactly what I'm here to do.
Right.
Right. And I am here to represent. Pence kind of postured himself appropriately, whereas Shay Donald went to Twitter demanding apologies and all kinds of stuff.
Is demanding
hey guys, it's going to be
policy.
4 years at least
of
Donald Trump on Twitter. In fact, it's probably going to be Donald POTUS rants for the next 4 years. Get
the
used
thing,
to it.
and Dixon has come out and said you're going to be waiting a real long time for me
For me to apologize. Well, he doesn't have anything to apologize
Well,
for.
and
He's
his-
just.
his
I just
biggest
say to
argument-
you.
He was a spokesperson.
Well, and I
right,
just say to you,
essentially.
it's not that you're a coward. I'm not saying you're a coward. It's not black or white. I'm just saying you're not heroic
for doing what
to
you
say
did.
something in a crowd where you know you're going to get cheered. David Duke gets cheered at his rallies.
He does.
The big Heil
He
Trump
does.
people get
Yes.
cheered at their
Yes.
rallies. Everybody
Yes.
can
When
preach
you're
to the
surrounded
choir
by support,
and
it's
get
easy
cheers.
to
Yeah,
preach,
that's right.
right?
That's right.
Right.
So, speaking of Shay Donald and supporters who hail Trump or Heil Trump or however you say it,
Oh, gracious.
we've got a local guy, an attorney here in Chattanooga, and what was his name again?
Barnes.
Bob Barnes.
Bob Barnes.
Robert Barnes.
Yes.
Now, I became introduced to this story because I listen to NPR. I've been very clear that my favorite source of news is really NPR.
Yes.
Which conservatives says that makes me liberal, and liberals says that makes me conservative. So I listen to NPR, and they did an op-ed because I love All Things Considered, which they just do interest stories. And a writer from Yale who actually went to school with Mr. Barnes did this op-ed on him and covered kind of his history. Now, Robert Barnes is an attorney in Chattanooga. He is kind of a tax attorney. He did represent Wesley Snipes, the
Makes him
actor Wesley.
super smart about money.
Yeah,
right?
and helped him avoid having to pay a lot of back taxes. But went to Yale. While he was at Yale, pretty much pointed fingers at the intellectual elite
like 'em.
and said, "You're all elitists. It's a bunch of kids who are alumni. There's not enough people like me who grew up in East Ridge, Tennessee, up here to temper you and your elitist ideology. I'm out." So
Yeah.
after 2 years,
Left.
Yale and went to the great Rocky Top, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and subsequently becomes this lawyer. Well, one of his friends from Yale tracks him down years later, and the way this reporter describes him is he says he becomes my one friend on Facebook who's a Trump supporter. Which let me know very quickly after the election just exactly what kind of bubble. So everything Bob Barnes said about the intellectual elitism of Yale was proved in this election.
Sure.
Because this is one guy
Yeah.
who left and said, "I'm done with you guys," wrote a scathing op-ed in the Yale paper as he left. So years later, supporting Trump, and so even the reporter says, "I realize what kind of bubble I live in because this guy predicted Trump before no one did."
Right.
To the tune. And this is why Bob Barnes of Chattanooga, I'm going to try to get him on this program.
Friends. Everybody's going to want to be his friend.
He hopped, while everybody was voting, he got on a plane.
Right.
Bob Barnes did.
Does it say when? When did he actually fly
It was this
over?
election season.
Okay.
The odds on Trump winning the presidency was 4-1 overseas. It's illegal to bet on politics in the States. He flew to the UK, to Europe, converted his money to euros, walked into a little pub or something, and placed a $125,000
Bet
bet
it all.
on Donald Trump to become the next president of the United
Who's
States.
got enough money to meet that bet?
A tax attorney.
Yeah.
Okay, so but wins 4-1. Now $500,000 richer right now.
Yes.
So it's
So this is going to sound ignorant, but euros to American dollar, where are we standing?
oh, who
right
knows?
now?
It fluctuates daily. It used to be like 1.8
Okay,
American
okay.
dollars to a
So-
euro. I think euros are weaker now. I was looking at the pound comparison was like 1.8.
Okay.
But $500,000 U.S. currency,
Which is a
richer.
lot of money.
So it's the whole story that's interesting about this is Bob Barnes is obviously a populist conservative, supported Donald Trump, was preaching the predictions.
Mm-hmm.
All of the Yale elites, including this reporter, were brushing him off.
He's
He
gonna
obviously
make it
is
rain
right.
on
So
him
now all
right
these
now.
all these elitists are looking back, going, obviously Bob Barnes knew something we didn't.
Smart man.
So
Smart man.
my question for my wife while I have her in the studio is,
Oh goodness.
when can we fly to Europe and I
Right.
can place?
Would you
Right,
allow
Because
it?
I would have lost everything. on
There
this
is a
election.
statement that my husband often quotes.
Okay.
And he says, and it rings true in this situation, it takes money to make money.
It does.
We'd have
It
had to
does.
pay for some plane tickets over to Europe.
Yeah,
That'd have been our
funny.
first obstacle.
And
Well,
until
right.
we get more sponsorship on this program, we're going to need it. Which leads us,
the
guys.
fact that he was totally content with. There's a chance that I might lose.
Lose the money. He had
$125,000.
that much money to
That's
lose
right. He
was
in
good.
the event that he was wrong.
was good.
But I can honestly say I love a man that'll stick to his convictions. So, Bob,
Good
she
for
give you
him.
some props.
That's this
Yeah.
man right here. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys, for tuning in to Man Up America. This rebroadcast will happen tomorrow. We're off for Thanksgiving, so we'll actually see you next week. Thanks for listening to Talk 101.3 The Buzz, watching us on WTNB here in Cleveland. Special thank you to my beautiful wife
Thank you.
and my beautiful co-host, Mitch,
Thank you.
in the studio this week. We will see you guys next week, and we're out. Are you looking to refinance?